Welcome, everyone. You know, when we talk about Scorpios, certain ideas usually jump out, don't they? Intense, maybe a bit, manipulative, sometimes vengeful.
Right. Those are definitely the common perceptions. Intense, for sure.
But we think there's a lot more going on beneath the surface, a real capacity for deep, fundamental change. That's what we're diving into today.
Absolutely. Those stereotypes, they really only scratch the surface. What we want to explore is this fascinating journey, a kind of evolution in 3 stages that shows the potential for, well, profound transformation.
And this isn't just for people with Scorpio sun signs, right?
Not at all. These ideas, these stages of growth, they really offer insights that anyone can connect with, I think. We all have that potential for transformation.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive, unpack these 3 phases. We've got the scorpion, the eagle, and then the phoenix.
Yeah, what does each one tell us about facing our own shadows, our inner darkness, and, ultimately coming out stronger?
We'll be drawing insights from the work Scorpio Phoenix Evolution, the ultimate transformation Plutonian soul evolution, to kind of guide us through this.
And it's worth keeping in mind, even if Scorpio isn't like super prominent in your own chart, these themes, self-awareness, shadow work, rebirth, they're pretty universal, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. We all carry a bit of that transformative Scorpio energy, that potential for deep change.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Stage 1, the scorpion. What does that look like? What are the main characteristics?
Well, the source suggests it's really marked by this intense focus on the external world, looking out for danger, suspicion.
Yeah, a focus on perceived threats, hidden motives. There's this inherent suspicion, a feeling of needing to be guarded.
And interestingly, it mentions that learning often comes through painful experiences in this stage, a feeling of being trapped, maybe.
Yes, trapped by circumstances or even just the sheer intensity of their own feelings. It's a tough place to be.
So if you're constantly braced for impact, you're going to be, well, hypervigilant. Where does that tendency come from, though, the focus on the negative?
The book suggests it often comes from maybe early experiences, confronting the, let's call it, darker side of humanity sooner than most.
Okay, so that creates this hyper-awareness of what other people might be hiding.
Exactly. It can lead to this sort of constant analysis, looking for hidden meanings, like a scorpion, literally hiding, watching, always ready to defend itself.
And it's not just a general distrust, is it? It can become quite specific.
Right. The source points to suspicion that can almost border on paranoia sometimes, and that strong drive for control.
Which might look like secrecy. Or even manipulation.
Yeah, or manipulation.
Yeah.
And of course, that classic trait, the potential for vengefulness if they feel deeply wronged.
It also mentions a kind of deep insecurity under all that, masked by this really tough exterior.
And that's key. Understanding the sensitivity underneath. The author really stresses that folks in this stage are often incredibly sensitive.
So these behaviors, the lashing out, the mistrust, they're survival tactics?
Pretty much learned responses. Strike first, trust never. That kind of mentality. If you learn early on that vulnerability leads to pain, you build walls. Thick ones.
But that must be exhausting, living like that, always on defense. What's the catalyst for change? How does the scorpion start to evolve?
The crucial pivot, according to the source, is turning that intense focus inward.
Instead of scanning the horizon for threats.
Exactly. The transformation really kicks off when there's a willingness to look at their own inner darkness, not just projecting it or running from it.
Okay, so the scorpion is feeling cornered, maybe by its own defenses. What's the bridge to the next stage, the eagle? How does that process start?
Well, the source calls this the scorpion eagle transformation. And it starts with that inward look we just talked about.
The realization that the darkness isn't just out there.
Precisely. It's that dawning awareness, maybe uncomfortable, that the same shadows they fear or judge in others, well, they exist inside too.
And that moment is described as a kind of crossroads.
A critical juncture, yeah. A real fork in the road. Path 1 leads toward the eagle. That involves taking what the author calls radical responsibility for your own shadow stuff.
So choosing self-discovery over blame.
Exactly. Actively digging into your own inner landscape instead of just pointing fingers, unfurling your wings, so to speak, the other path. That keeps you stuck in scorpion mode.
Resisting accountability, projecting everything outwards.
Right. The stinger stays out, but the venom, as the author puts it, ends up poisoning you through bitterness, resentment. It's quite a stark image.
Very. And the shadow side, it doesn't just vanish if you ignore it, does it?
No way. The book argues it'll keep popping up, often in painful ways, until you actually face it, acknowledge it, work to integrate it.
There's that line, isn't there? Something like,
You are mine, and I will transmute you. It really highlights that it's an active process. You have to consciously engage with it.
it's not passive. It often takes work, maybe triggered by a crisis.
Often, yes. Recognizing those repeating negative patterns, especially in relationships, and starting to own your part in them, that's a huge step towards the eagle.
Now, the author gets quite personal here, mentioning their Saturn return as a major catalyst. That's often a time of big shifts. What was their experience?
It sounds really intense, of complete upheaval, like the foundations of their life just crumbled. Loss of identity, disorientation.
Wow.
And the big realization was that the armor they built against the world, it actually blinded them to the chaos inside. They were so focused externally.
If they missed the self-sabotage happening within.
Exactly. It led to what they call a tower moment. Multiple major losses hitting at once: family, career, health, just overwhelming anxiety.
A real breaking point, a forced reckoning almost.
Totally. It was like confront this stuff and change or face a complete breakdown. That moment pushed them into this deep dive into truth.
Which led to daily shadow work.
Yeah. Became non-negotiable. Even on the hard days, just facing the inner stuff, no matter how painful, that was the work. And slowly, it led to rearranging priorities, finding a more authentic path.
There's a really hopeful message in that for anyone going through tough times now, isn't there?
Definitely. The author reframes that struggle. It's not punishment, it's initiation,
Yeah.
a trial by fire, that feeling lost. It's labor, difficult but transformative.
So every bit of self-honesty helps you reclaim your power.
That's the idea, reclaiming your sovereignty. Transformation isn't a destination, it's the journey. And that ability to rise from the ashes, it's always there, even when it feels impossible.
So, okay, after that intense self-reckoning, the eagle starts to emerge. What defines this stage? How does the perspective shift?
The huge shift, really, is recognizing that the shadows you see in others, they're often mirrors, reflections of parts of yourself you haven't owned yet.
So as you face your own darkness,
Your judgment of others starts to soften. Real empathy begins to grow. You start to get, everyone's operating from their own wounds, their own pain, just like you were.
and the author sums it up with that phrase,
Nothing is personal. Which is incredibly freeing, isn't it?
totally. How does that change how an eagle acts?
It allows for what the source calls the eagle's pivot. That intense focus turns inward. Power isn't about controlling others anymore. It's about mastering your own inner world, your psyche.
And pain changes too.
Yes. It goes from being just suffering to be a teacher, a source of insight. Because you've navigated your own underworld, you develop this compassion, this ability to see what others are going through beneath the surface.
And this inner work, it shows up externally too.
Absolutely. Through that consistent shadow work, you start untangling behaviors rooted in old trauma. You learn to transmute that pain into purpose, maybe even help others.
And develop that X-ray vision the source mentions.
Yeah, for hidden dynamics, seeing the unspoken stuff,
Yeah.
the undercurrents in relationships or situations that most people miss. It's about self-awareness, combined with the courage to rise above old patterns.
The eagle itself is such a potent symbol here. Why the eagle specifically?
Well, the author points to three things: power, vision, and perspective. Historically, eagles symbolize strength, courage, right?
Yeah.
Think of banners, shields,
Sure. And the eyesight.
legendary eyesight, yeah.
Yeah.
Symbolizing keen perception, seeing details from a height, clarity. And across cultures, eagles often represent higher wisdom, messengers between worlds.
How does that connect back to the Scorpio journey, the difference from the Scorpion stage?
Well, the scorpion is aware of hidden things, but it's often clouded by intense emotion reactivity. The eagle gains the mental clarity, the detachment to see those same dynamics more objectively.
Without getting sucked in by their own emotional reaction.
Exactly. It's about integrating that deep Scorpio emotional intuition, the water element, with the eagle's airy mental clarity.
So intuition plus logic, leading to wiser decisions.
Yes. The focus shifts from just reacting defensively to understanding things from a higher viewpoint. It signifies transcending old limits through self-awareness as a form of real strength.
Okay, so we've gone from the reactive Scorpion to the insightful eagle. What's the final stage? What does it mean to reach the Phoenix level?
The Phoenix stage is presented as the ultimate expression, often reached later in life. It usually involves having gone through multiple cycles of, well, destruction and renewal, big ones.
People have been through the fire, so to speak.
Again and again, yeah. And each time, they emerge stronger, wiser. Where others see crisis as an end, the Phoenix sees it as a catalyst for growth. There's kind of hard-earned resilience, adaptability, grace.
What are the defining traits of someone really embodying this Phoenix energy?
Fearless adaptability, for one. A deep acceptance of change is just part of the deal, and an unshakable self-knowledge they've made peace with their shadow.
And their power shifts again.
Yeah, it's less about control, more about becoming a healing force. Empowered leadership, that intense Scorpio energy which could be destructive before.
Is now channeled constructively.
Exactly. Transmuted into driving positive change, serving something bigger than themselves, not just reacting or creating conflict.
It sounds like they're operating from a whole different plane of understanding.
Totally. They've integrated life's lessons. They work from deep self-awareness, deep wisdom. They don't fear their darkness anymore. They've learned to alchemize it.
Turning it into strength and empathy.
And profound empathy, yes.
Yeah.
Their emotions fuel compassion. Their intensity becomes a catalyst for good. It's Scorpio energy fully matured. Powerful but gentle, insightful but humble.
Fiercely individual, yet connected.
Profoundly connected. The Phoenix doesn't just rise for itself. Its fire illuminates the path for others still finding their way.
So if someone wants to cultivate this, move towards that Phoenix potential, what does the author suggest? What are the steps?
It starts with relentless self-honesty. Facing the painful stuff without blinking. Not bypassing it, but cultivating what's called transformational acceptance. Acknowledging reality.
And practical steps.
Prioritizing self-care that builds resilience therapy. Journaling, mindful movement, things like that. Daily rituals for self-awareness are key too. Meditation, dedicated shadow work, time in nature.
And reframing resistance, learning to flow with the cycles.
Yes, embracing Scorpio's natural death-rebirth rhythm. Understanding endings create beginnings. The key is that Phoenix potential awakens through struggle, not by avoiding it. Every challenge is a chance to transform if you choose it.
The link to the mythical phoenix bird feels so central here. Can you unpack those parallels a bit more?
Yeah, the author does a great job connecting it. The Greek myth, right? The bird bursts into flames, then rises renewed from the ashes.
Which directly mirrors Scorpio's core theme.
Death, rebirth, yeah.
Yeah.
Governed by Pluto, the planet of transformation. They're key parallels. The fire element symbolizes voluntarily burning away the old self, what no longer serves.
And the rebirth cycle.
That matches the evolved Scorpio's ability to use crises as fuel for growth. Not just enduring them, but leveraging them.
And there's a ripple effect.
Absolutely. Just like the mythical phoenix inspires awe, the human phoenix, through their own transformation, becomes this beacon for others. They inspire change just by being.
So the phoenix myth isn't just a metaphor.
In astrological terms, it's like Scorpio's evolutionary blueprint. It shows how even the deepest wounds can become wisdom, become strength.
Okay, let's pull this all together. We've tracked the journey from the scorpion, focused externally, driven by survival.
Right, consumed by darkness in a way.
To the eagle, turning inward, gaining self-awareness, empathy.
Focusing internally, understanding the shadows.
And finally, the phoenix, operating from wisdom born of transformation, guiding others.
Yeah, wisdom through alchemized pain, becoming a healing presence. These three stages, Scorpion, Eagle, Phoenix, they're like necessary steps on this ongoing path of growth.
Not rigid boxes, but phases.
Exactly. The Scorpion grappling with the world in itself. The Eagle confronting its own stuff, finding compassion. The Phoenix turning pain into wisdom, lighting the way.
And it's crucial to remember it's not linear like climbing a ladder, more like a spiral.
That's such an important point. You might revisit lessons. You might stumble, fall back into old patterns briefly. But each phase prepares you for the next part of the journey.
The scorpion's survival instincts, the eagle's perspective, the phoenix's resilience, they all play a part.
They all contribute. They're all necessary parts of the whole evolutionary process.
So the real power isn't reaching some final enlightened state, but it's in the process of transformation itself.
Precisely. That continuous shedding of the old, rising anew. Every ending is fuel. Every obstacle is an opportunity.
For personal growth and maybe inspiring others too.
Absolutely. That potential to uplift others is huge.
So for everyone listening, thinking about their own lives, what's the key starting point from all this?
I'd say honest self-reflection is always the first step. Just take a moment. Which stage resonates most right now? Scorpion, Eagle, Phoenix. Where do you feel you are on that spectrum?
And what's the final thought you want to leave us mulling over?
Just this idea. Our transformations ripple outwards. They're not just personal. When you find the courage to rise, to change, you implicitly give others permission to do the same.
That's powerful.
So, keep evolving. Embrace that inner fire. become the phoenix our world needs.
Wow, that's a great note to end on. And while we focused on the Scorpio archetype, these principles, self-awareness, facing shadows, transformation, they really are universal, aren't they?
Absolutely. So we really encourage everyone listening, take a moment, consider where you might be in this process. What's one small step you could take, maybe even today, towards greater self-understanding or towards embracing a change you know you need?
Maybe it's looking into shadow work a bit more, trying a mindfulness practice, or even just, looking at your own strengths and challenges with a bit more compassion could offer some real insights.
Because ultimately, personal evolution isn't really a destination. It's this ongoing dynamic process. There's always potential for rebirth, for renewal, right throughout our lives.
Thank you so much for this fantastic deep dive today. It's been illuminating.
My pleasure. Great conversation.
And thank you all for joining us. Until next time, keep diving deep.